How are you? How you doing? Really glad to be on another episode of My Take. My name is Adenike, and I'm here with my girlfriends. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Tutu, and it's so good to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Tosin. Welcome back.
Hello, and thank you, ladies, for having me. My name is Bookie. Thank you for inviting me as a guest today.
Welcome, Buki. Most of us know that we have some of our girlfriends who pop in from time to time. Buki being one of our ladies. Really glad to see you. Everybody's looking so refreshed after our break. What have you guys been up to? I hope interesting, fun stuff. Tosin, I know you always have somewhere that you have to go to.
Yeah, had some programs and all about the kids and traveled a bit.
Amazing, excellent. What about you, Tutu? What were you up to?
It's college visit season for us, so we've just been touring colleges all over.
That's nice. Buki, any interesting things lined up for summer?
Summer, it's a full house. At least it is now. So I'm excited. Mostly, it's typically quiet, and I'm beginning to remember and ask God for grace and patience. And I've gotten used to the house with a little more empty, and just kind of understanding that dealing with college students it's very different from my previous experience of handling my children. So I'm
Wow.
just trying to be mindful of the fact that they are young adults now, and allowing them to chart their own course. But it's been good having them home. Absolutely love it.
That's amazing. I really enjoy just having a bit of a break as well, just relax. But you do wonder where did the time go because before you know it, you're back in the grind. But I'm enjoying the summer, hot, nice, and like you said, as women, I'm sure we all have different seasons of our lives. So welcome to everyone in our audience. Would love for you to be a part of today's show, today's episode. And it's actually quite an interesting one. It's titled Help. How do I handle deception and betrayal in relationships? I'm sure most of us have experienced or heard a story in one area or the other about people maybe that have gone through some very challenging situations, especially marriage and relationships. But sometimes we hear so many stories that can be quite baffling, quite shocking, and definitely quite painful. Well, my take is a forum where we as ladies come together to hang out, unwind, chat about the things that are happening around us while lending our voices to some of the social issues in the world today. Our goal is really to promote a culture of love and compassion, as well as truth and candidness. So, on today's episode, we're starting to really see more and more. The desire to be in a successful relationship, the desire to be in a good marriage. We all start off our lives at different stages. It doesn't matter when we jump into relationships with certain expectations. But it feels sometimes, I don't know if things have changed, and I'd like to hear what the ladies say, but it feels as if the world we live in, the world of social media, where it seems as if there's more information out there, the level of deception actually seems to have gone to another level. Most people expect, friends and relationship partners and even strangers to a certain extent to be truthful most of the time. However, at different points in time to different degrees, we can end up putting our trust in someone that didn't deserve it. And at times we can be really, really genuinely blindsided when, we're like, how did I miss that? I can't believe I was this deceived or betrayed in such a major way. We recently read a story on social media about a lady who found out her husband was already married to with children in another country. You would think that maybe she was far away, but she actually lived in their home country with his family, with her in-laws and the rest of it. And he had a separate family, abroad in another country, and the people around knew. So at times it's the how did I miss the signs? And it seems as if it's all around us and everything else. So I'll really be very interested in knowing what, ladies, you think. I mean, I remember a relationship expert once said that, when it comes to deception in relationships, say deception and lies shatter the reality of others, eroding their belief in the veracity of their perceptions and subjective experience. The betrayal of trust leads to a shocking and painful realization on the part of the deceived party that there's an aspect of his or her partner that they had no knowledge of. Let's dive straight into this. Buki, what are some of your initial thoughts on this issue? I mean, it's so prevalent, to a certain extent, on very levels, but some can be real shockers. What are some of your thoughts on this issue?
As much as when it happens to you, like you said, it's kind of like devastating. Let's say maybe the first time when you really come to it's really like your reality isn't what you thought it was, right? So you have to rethink your whole essence. What was that all about? Especially when it's very close relationship. I know we've been saying relationship, we haven't quite defined it as husband and wife, but there's deception in many, many places. And so, what it is that when you engage with people, when you're in a relationship with a person, be it a child, parent, friend, spouse, someone you're dating, or even people at work, you start out from it, or not usually people start from a place of trust, and that's what it is. So you start from a place of trust, and you're working in that environment that I have your best interest at heart, you have my best interest at heart, at least I do. That's where I come from. And so, you build that relationship. And when you go on and into that relationship and it starts to get better, you've known the person for years, and you've built a life or a perception of your relationship with that person. When you find out that a core element of it is a lie, or you've been deliberately deceived about something, it kind of shatters the whole relationship, and lets you go back to the beginning and start to think which part of it was real, or was any of it even real in the first place. And so, it's not only devastation for the relationship, it's, from a mental perspective, from you start to rethink all these things, like you said, how did I miss the signs? You start to doubt yourself. And the ongoing effect of that is, as you get into relationship with other people, you bring that baggage along with you. The baggage of the fact that you've been deceived in the past. And so your relationship with people moving forward is also damaged, right? So, it has a long lasting effect. When you start with the process, when you find out that you've been deceived, it kind of goes through like multiple phases. You kind of start with the anger, you're very angry about what happened, and you go through different emotions. So you start with anger, you're mad and everything, and after a while you're like, excuse me, what just happened? When reality starts to set in, it's like you start starting to rethink, and now you start to get anxious. What exactly is what's going on with this? Then you get to start to understand, now you're in some kind of despair as to where is this going? What does this mean? Right? Then you come to fear, right? From despair, okay, now, okay, if this is what, then you start to wonder what's going, especially when you're vested in that relationship, right? It's like the fear of now what happens, because you start to think of the cascading effect of what could happen, right? When it gets, then you start to regret some of the actions that you've been, if I had known, I wouldn't have put my all in it. If I didn't, you start to doubt all yourself, you start to go through all these different emotions. And then, you start to, depend on the kind of relationship, I'm going to show this person Pepe, I'm sorry, I'm doing my Nigerian. I just, I'm going to retaliate. You start to want to retaliate, but all these emotions, like I said, none of it is positive, right? So for you as an individual, your mental stability starts to wobble at this point. So deception in itself, what it does, is break that foundation of any relationship, which is trust. And then everybody says that once trust is broken, it's very hard. It's not impossible, by the way, but it's very hard to build back. you now have to set boundaries and you have to build. But like I said, I bring it back to, our relationship with God and everything. We know, despite the fact that we know that God is all knowing, God knows everything, and we do some things, we try to, okay, you try to for a moment block the fact that God is seeing you one on one. You don't need to, you can hide all you like, you know. But there's a level of lies and deception that we want to tell ourselves about certain things and
Yeah.
in our relationship with God. And then when we do go back, God is open and willing to accept us. So I think that there's some parallels that we can draw there. No one is perfect. No one is perfect in their outlook and in their, some people, like I said, if you bring in your baggage from where you're coming from, so you don't know where that person is coming from also, as they've, maybe they've been taught that the only way that they can succeed or get anything that they want is through lies and deception. If I
Yeah.
don't manipulate the issue, if I don't manipulate it, I'm going to be at a loss. So I want to be on top. And that's where they're coming from. So kind of, when we go through all the the emotions of the anger and everything, we need to kind of come full circle and kind of think, first of all, is why do you feel the need to deceive me? And I'm not, we haven't talked specific about this one in this essence, in the example that you gave. You said, they had a whole family elsewhere, everybody around you. So that means that everyone agreed ahead of time that they were going to deceive me, right? Or, was an unspoken thing and they just took their son's side and just, zipped their lip and were watching as everything was unfolding, knowing what was going on, but thinking, oh, but the question is why?
And
Why?
I think to your point, that that even the mental stress that comes out of that, and I know that, of course we gave that scenario, but we've on the show before, we've had a previous episode where, a man found out a true story, when a man found out that the three children that his wife had for him, none of them belonged to him. And that depth of pain, and you're wondering, why would they do this to me? And it brings up a lot of mental challenges. And you said something, Buki, that was anything ever real? I don't know, Tutu. I know you have both a legal mindset, you're you deal a lot with relationships, you're you have some very strong opinions and stuff like this. How would you even, let's even take it to this story. Is it, we talk a lot about red flags, but is this a time to start saying, where were the red flags, sort of thing? Or, sometimes, yes, maybe there were really no red flags, but even then, it wasn't a red flag everybody would have picked up. Can there really be a scenario where a person can be so misled, so shattered, and they want revenge of some sort, or they just want to get back at that person? What are some of your experiences from just some of the stories and things that you've also counseled people on as well?
Thank you, Nike. I like the way Buki broke down the different, stages that, people go through when they've experienced deception and betrayal. And first, regarding the scenario that you shared with us, Nike, for this lady, honestly, I understand. Well, I don't want to say I understand. I empathize with her and, all that she's gone through. But in her own case, honestly, my own take would be for her to quickly get herself together. I mean, she's obviously, the people around her are not, they don't have her best interest at heart. And even the husband, I mean, in this, well, he's not even her, on paper he's her husband, but the reality is he has a family elsewhere. So for her, there's even nothing to there's nothing for her to hold on to. So in her own case, she just needs to, deal with her own emotions and quickly come to terms with her reality and find a way to move on, with her children, if she already has children in the relationship. But where it relates to maybe another scenario where, for example, a woman is married to her own husband, living with her own husband, and her husband betrays her, or could be the wife that betrays the husband. Of course, the person is going to go through different stages of emotions, like Buki outlined. But then at some point, if you look back into the relationship, I mean, is there anything that is even worth salvaging? For example, is there anything that is even true about this person? Number two, is this person even sorry? So, for example, let's say it's in a case of infidelity. Are they are they remorseful? Are they truly repentant? So if there are things that you can salvage, that, oh, this person is truly repentant, they truly want your forgiveness, you can see that they are making efforts to change. While it's going to be difficult to build trust again, it's not impossible. You can still build trust. So the first, some of this, and this is not in the order of how to handle the situation, but at some point, after going through your different emotions, and for people that are people of faith, that are Christians, ultimately at some point we need to forgive this person. You'll need to forgive this person that has hurt you, and try and rebuild. Again, I'm saying, if if the person has been remorseful, where there's even an opportunity to salvage the relationship. So we forgive the person, and asking God for grace, because, and the Bible is so true. I mean, Jesus, even though he was God, when he was on earth, he was man, and he went through different stages like this. He was betrayed by people that he loved, and the same people that were crying, shouting Hosanna, were the same people that were saying crucify him. But one of the things we notice about Jesus is, after he performs a miracle and the people are trying to make him a king or something, he moves away, because he understands the nature of men. So I think one of the, like Jesus, we can also appreciate that people are people, so we cannot put our 100% trust in people. I see Oluwaseun is asking if not remorseful. If the person is not remorseful, that is a different story. And I know someone in that situation, where the person is not remorseful and they're even justifying their acts. In that particular case, I am providing full support for that spouse to move on, because I mean, there's nothing in that particular case, there's nothing worth salvaging. I mean, the person is not ready to change. They've shown themselves over and over again that they are not ready to change. So unless you just want to stay on and hold on to, that, and keep hoping, but where the person is truly remorseful, I feel that we can, there's something to work with. Of course, it's going to take a while to build trust, and of course, the person that has broken the trust must also be patient with the victim. It's going to take a while. They may continue to question you, for a long time, and you can't, you don't have the right to say, oh, where, when are you going to stop questioning me? But of course, the same person asking the question should also realize that, if you continue to ask these questions, what answers are you hoping to get? Will the answers this person is giving you, especially if they are truthful, may continue to hurt you. So at some point, you yourself have to ask yourself, do I really need to continue to ask these questions? It's hard, but it's a reality you have to come to. Like, what will the answer do to me? Is it going to help the situation, or is it going to hurt me some more? So at some point, you also need to stop asking these questions and begin to rebuild. And of course, it's really, really going to take time. But I know with, with both of you willing to work together to build your relationship again, I feel that, there's hope.
Interesting. Thank you. Okay.
I wanted to jump in here. I appreciate everything Buki has said and Tito has said. Regarding the people that are aware, if we take this case scenario, that his family knew he had another family, could it be a case of, how they in our culture it says oroko atiyawo shoro dasi, meaning that it's difficult to jump into a husband and wife situation. Those people don't want to get into trouble with, their family member if they say anything. I know a case in point where I have been in that situation, and I still have the secret till today. And I told another person that knows about the secret that I'm taking it to my grave, because if this person knows, it could just be devastating, and we don't want to be the bearer of bad news. So how do you deal with that? That, coming from that angle in this case study.
But Justin, that's a and I'll throw this back at you. That's a very, very good point that you raised that, but I think that, and this is maybe where we should ask this question. Should there be, when let's go into the place of marriage, right? Because when it's relationships, you can discuss varying levels of commitments are still there. But if we look at the scenario of marriage and, in a society and in a culture where this is my son, he's the one providing, taking care of me every month, the mother may just feel, you have more than one wife, that's okay. However, where there is the expectation, maybe even with the siblings and everybody else, and that potentially this woman there may even be plans. There was a completely different story, if you remember. Let me jump to that as an example. A completely different story where this woman was married to a man, and they wanted to start a family, and man was like, I don't think we should start the family yet. I feel we need to give ourselves some time to develop ourselves, build financially, until one day the husband's sister said, she's always giving, she takes care of everybody, she provides, she takes food to his family. One day she was just so sad. She told the wife that, I'm sorry, but I know my brother is planning to leave you with another woman. Found out that maybe it was one of his old loves or something, and they had applied to Canadian embassy. They had gotten their residency paper. They had booked when they would travel. It was because the sister knew they were traveling and what was about to happen. And so she went digging into the whole house, found the passports with the visa, found the tickets and everything. She took it. She said she almost died. Took it, hid everything, and didn't know what to do next. And then she saw her husband generally just searching all over there. What are you looking for? I'm just looking for something. What are you looking for? I'm just looking for something. Looking for all the paperwork. And we were asking ourselves privately, what should we do? Some of us were laughing. What kind of foolish question? Shouldn't you have burnt it? Shouldn't you have done this? In that scenario, was the sister wrong, in telling the brother? Like Tosi very well said, some people feel, let's not get into, but is there a line that you feel ethically should not be crossed, that this is wicked? What is happening now is being very wicked to another person. And maybe this is part of the cultural aspect that is destroying a lot of our homes from where we come from. This issue of don't get into husband and wife's issue, even when we know that what is happening is very dangerous within that marriage.
Nike,
Don't get me.
There's something Yoruba people call abusi. I don't know the English word for it, but that sister did the right thing. And honestly, I would do the same. In fact, I would like to attend the burn party with that
And
lady.
this is your brother. This would have been your brother.
This would have been my brother. I mean, I'm that sister that would call out my brother, call out my parents. I mean, this is not a matter of, oh, we don't want to get involved in the, husband and wife issue. I mean, this is pure wickedness.
Yes.
There are some things in marriage that, you don't want to get involved with. Maybe, of course, couples fight, couples have issues. But when it's getting to this type of level, I mean, you have a responsibility. You owe a responsibility to that person. Your sister-in-law, I mean, it's not because we call them in-laws. They are really your sisters. You've accepted them into your family. So they are family too. So why would you keep quiet at such a thing? I will never keep quiet at such when such evil is being perpetrated around me.
Okay.
Let me jump in here.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. The only reason why I said that secret is being kept is because the person did not end up marrying that person. So I'm like, there's no point in saying anything.
Yes.
I am all for the truth coming out. And trust me, you guys, I mean, you guys know me. I'm all for the truth coming out. And the sister did the right thing by what she did to save that girl from a bigger heartache. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think Nika, you just like Titi said, but I like Titi's choice of words. I probably won't have been as strong, but I agree with everything. There's a level of uh how would I put it? Social responsibility. If I want
Hmm.
to even make it even lighter, the way I view it is more so. What if it was me?
Yeah.
If I'm the one on the other side, what would I what would I expect, or what would I want someone else to do for me? I have children. What if my daughter had to go through that, and
Hmm.
everyone is, oh, my son, I mean, am I going to support my son's shenanigans if he does that kind of nonsense? Oh, God forbid. So I think that, it doesn't matter whether the child is, supporting you financially and everything like that. I think there's something, I mean, if we go back to that scenario where, in our society, in the Nigerian culture, even I think it goes beyond this person is my sponsor. It's more so that that kind of lifestyle is acceptable. And
Hmm.
so because it's acceptable, it's like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? So the level of wickedness that we feel like it is, or that we anticipate it being, it's not how they see it,
Hmm.
right? They could say, well, Shibi, I said, let me say, well, after all, she's the one in the house with him. You,
Hmm.
I mean, if he already had, I don't know if she's the second set, if she's the second family, because the way it was outlined was like he already had that family before he had her. Can you imagine what the other the one that's not in the country with them is feeling? That means you went away and you created another family for yourself, while you told us, we are here trying to create a better life for ourselves, and we're going through a vision that we all supposedly had together. But you went away and and then your family is supporting you, all of that. They know that. In fact, she's living in your house. They come and visit, eat her food, while I'm over here doing what? So there is deception on multiple sides here. The man is totally living a lie. So the difference here is that in most cases, the man will have been outright and said, I have another family, right? But maybe he felt that this particular wife will not be accepting of it, or neither of my wives will be accepting of it. I mean, my thing is more so for the people that are around,
I think.
and all of that
Yeah.
happen. And no one can call the guy to order to say that this is not acceptable. That is just wrong. That's just a wrong flag for him himself. If he feels, unless he's begging them on the side, even if he is, if you're going to have another family, it's Nigeria. If you tell them, sorry, if you can find a woman that is going to accept that kind of thing, and there are women that will accept it, but
Yeah.
don't leave somebody and doing this. It's all about expectation. My
Hmm.
expectation is that this husband is mine.
Yeah.
Not somebody else. I didn't come into this thinking I was sharing it, and then I have children, and then we're trying to wonder where all the money is going when you guys got paid, and it's like, we can't still, just the lies that will just keep
Yeah.
coming over and over again. And it's a whole sham,
Yes. And
It's
I think that point is, I almost feel like the wider issue we're talking about here is a culture and a society that is letting this thing build. I feel that that's actually the missing link. Having deceptive people in this world is not a new thing. What it is that how, as a society, we are collectively, and Buki used the right word, there's a social um, responsibility that is waning, where people look the other way. People don't want to be the one to break the bad news. People don't want to, and Tosi was right. I understand what you're saying in terms of, in some cases, it's not everything that you hear of that you automatically talk about, because you may not truly understand the real scenario. However, we see it in our movies today. We see it in songs. We see families. Everybody is either saying, you mind your business, or men will be men. Or in some cases, we put so much pressure on women I was saying the other day to somebody that, a woman is married and she doesn't have children, and they're piling on problems, piling on issues, piling on pressure. And then you start hearing people say, are you not a woman? Do something about it. Are you not a woman? Do something about it. Is this how you're going to sit down and let them throw you out of your husband's family? What are you insinuating? So people come from outside. So we worry when the woman then gets pregnant, pushes it on her husband, and pray that in Jesus' name he does never applies to United States or Canadian embassy, so they don't have to ever do, those sort of scenarios. I feel that as a society, we've actually, and someone said, we've actually brought this bad behavior to the table, and we've promoted it in such a way. Exactly. It's been normalized, like Lillian said. This has now been normalized. So that brings me back to my next question, which is knowing how the society is, knowing how sometimes friends don't always tell the truth, knowing sometimes how family members may be looking out first for their loved ones before you, or how they have a dysfunctional mindset to say, everybody goes through it. Even when we bring it closer, we're people of faith. When we bring it closer, even within the church, we see people marrying on wrong pretext. We see people marrying, God said, because they know that you're a ticket to another country, you're a ticket to a better life. We see, women marrying men that they are, quote unquote, settling for, because they need to take care of their siblings, and this person has come from the abroad. You may not love the person, you go with them and you think you make it work. The number of women who are having extramarital affairs is shocking. The number of women who are sleeping with men that are financing their lifestyles is shocking. People don't really talk about it. It's just the difference between men and women is that, and it's very hard to catch a woman who is having it can be quite hard. With men, sometimes they slip up, but women, I don't know. I don't want to use the word, it's not grace, but there's something about a woman that, so it actually shocks the average man that, they would never be able to believe it. So what I would say, how does a person prevent themselves from being a victim? Are there signs to look for without being paranoid? I remember somebody that said, that, you know, and that's the honest truth. They said something, that they will struggle a lot to marry somebody. They would have to do a lot of due diligence to marry somebody. When they meet somebody and maybe they are chatting and, they live abroad and said, what's your status? They just initially, she said it point blank. I just say, I'm here on I have a long term or some work, something. They don't even want to disclose their citizenship because they don't know if the real reason why you might be interested. A lot of people say that, So are there characteristics of a deceitful person? It's not written on people's forehead. What is even deceptive behavior? How do you know if you're being deceived? Or can two people enter into a marriage for real, but the problem of marriage, disappointment, and the rest of it happens. Now, we're not really talking about quote unquote affairs. We've talked about those. We know it's there. We're talking about inherent going in, or while you are in, taking certain steps um, to deceive another person until you make your exit.
Um, Let me. I'm trying to say that, like you said, it's multifaceted, right? There's so
Mhm.
many angles to look at this from, and so I want to be a little careful to the different scenarios. If going into a relationship based on full deception, right? Like the scenario where, I already have a family somewhere, but I'm not going to tell you because for whatever reason, I still want you and I want to quote unquote build a family. I want you, and maybe to have you, you have some certain criteria and I'm just going to go along with it. And go with what you want just so that I could have you or I could be in your life, whatever it is, whatever reason you want to do that deception. Or, it's, that the different scenarios. So if it's different when you say, for this the example of I'm settling, right? And or quote unquote, you may think you're settling, or you say, or for a better life, this is what I'm choosing to do, or I'm going to marry this person. I may not love the person right now. I feel like those are very different scenarios, right? Because I may not love you right now. You may be the best solution for my life right now. But you love me, and I feel like I can make it work, and I'm going into it knowing that it's for better for worse. I'm not taking my commitment lightly, right? So I'm going into it with the thought of, yes, I am marrying this person and I'm going to make it work. I mean, there are people that never meet their spouse. There's still arranged marriages that happen today, but they work out, right? So there are different scenarios. So I think
But
it's
we're
a
talking
different.
about, we're not talking about that sort of thing. We're talking about a scenario where this is, when they say, Omo, better borrow yourself sense and follow this one. So,
So you
this is someone
follow this.
who I want to marry, but look, it ticks the boxes and I can, I'm just going to go with the flow.
Yeah, but you can tick the boxes and go with the flow, and but be committed to be responsible to your commitment and stick with your commitment versus going into it knowing that I still have a boyfriend outside, right? I'm killing the defense, right? I have a boyfriend. I'm going to keep my boyfriend because he keeps me gingered. But this one is going to pay my bills, so I'm going to go with marry the one that's paying my bills, or marry the one that pay my bills, so I can be okay financially. But I'm still keeping my ginger boy, something like that, whatever. That's different, versus, because, I at the same time, marriage happens for many reasons. Sometimes a lot of people they're in it already. They married spouses for lack of a better word, for the wrong reasons. That happens a lot,
A
right?
lot,
You
yes.
marry for the wrong reasons, but you get in there, but you're committed to make it work.
Yes.
Right. So that does not further any form of it. It's not that you know yourself that, okay, I did this. I mean, you're not going to tell the person you're my second best. You're not going to tell the person
Yes, and
that.
I don't think that falls into that circle. You're right.
Okay.
That
So
doesn't,
let's
because
follow that.
yes, yes. We're
So
talking
it's
about
going into it knowing that I'm going to continue deceiving you and having something else on the side. So and I'm so sorry now. I totally got off topic. The question was, how do you handle it, and how do you what signs are there, ways that you can avoid it, right?
being the victim.
Being the victim. I think, first of all, sometimes in our desperation, we put on rose-colored glasses and we choose to ignore certain things that we see, that's happening. The truth about it is that, when you, and then, or we rush into something very quickly. So there's different things. So avoid, ignoring some things that we see, and then rushing into something too quickly without giving it time to actually be able to see anything, right, before you get into it. And when you rush into something, that's the thing that you can the issue that you can run into, where you don't have enough time to build on your relationship. Now, not to say that the relationship has to be 1 year, 2 years. There's no duration of time per se, but there's something that you need to be able to understand and know. I kind of have a good feeling. I know who this person is. I've seen this. Sometimes a lot of people, the way that they add on to their deception is like the other lady with their family. You feel like, oh, I've met the mom, I've met the dad, I've met the thing. If there was anything wrong, I would have known. We know that that's not the scenario here. If someone wants to deceive you, they will. So I feel like, when we shouldn't, while we're the victim, we shouldn't think that it's our fault, right? If you are on the receiving end of a deception, don't think that it's your fault, because that's the natural, I must have done something, I must have ignored. It's irrelevant whether or not I didn't see a red flag. The fact is, you deceived me, because that's what people want to. But there's some things that you can see, but they're not always. You're not God. You don't know You're not all knowing, so you cannot necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to cut in. I just wanted to just take maybe a minute or two to just speak to ladies in particular, because this is one area that I'm very passionate about for women. And I'm a Christian, but at the same time, on this topic, I'm a realist. And here is my advice to ladies, ladies in waiting that are, trying to get married, getting into relationships. The truth is, I mean, there are good men out there, and this may also apply to men. There are good women out there. But please, I beg you, I know you love Jesus, but put press the brakes on certain things. Let people prove themselves before you open up everything. Like the example Nike gave about the lady that won't, disclose her true status and all of that. I mean, you're not trying to deceive. I mean, okay, so let's even say how for you not to be a victim. Number one, especially for ladies that are successful, honestly, my heart always goes out to them. They're so successful career wise, but when it comes to relationships, I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's the years of waiting. They just let their guards down. No, your guards really, really have to be up. This is not, especially, some ladies, I mean, unfortunately today, you may not meet someone in the country where you are living, so you end up importing your spouse. You have to be very, very careful. You can't just, take things at face value. When you're talking to the person in the talking stage, little things, when people, they say, there's a saying that when people show you who they are, believe them that first time. Don't let it fly over your head that, oh, maybe he didn't mean it. He meant it. She meant it. That is who that person is. That doesn't mean they can't be salvaged, but understand what you are dealing with, understand what you're entering into, and then don't quickly begin to finance all their projects. You are the one sponsoring their family members. You are sending his brother, her sister to school. You are doing all of those things. Of course, if you're doing all of that, of course, the person will try to be at their best behavior, the family. So be on your guard. I'm not saying don't be nice, but be nice with sense. Common sense is a gift from God. I say that all the time. So, ladies, I mean, we may not be able to prevent all the deceitfulness, but there are some that we can prevent. There are some signs that you can see. If something looks too good to be true, trust me, it is too good to be true. So don't just let your emotions, don't just get carried away by your emotions. You don't don't be desperate. Don't be desperate.
And I,
And I have a lot of single friends that are older, so I understand a bit of some of the things they go through. I mean, I had a friend one time that was talking to a guy, and she, on a good day, she's a very smart person, but she was talking to this guy and she was telling me, oh, this guy is in the US, blah blah. I said, please do a voice note with this guy, send me the voice note, let me listen to it. I listened to it. I said, girl, this guy is not, and the guy claims he's American. I said, this accent, true life
you heard the voice.
accent is not American. And my friend that is so smart could not even, do you understand? Like, desperation sometimes, helps you see the reality you want to see. I was the one going on. I said, what does he do for a living? She told me, just by a simple search on LinkedIn, I found that it wasn't true. Like, people lose, you know, basic common sense when it comes to these relationship matters. So please, ladies, do not allow yourself to fall into this. And if you're in a relationship with someone, please open up to your friends or family members that have your interest at heart, that will do the due diligence that you are not able to do, so that you don't become a victim. And when you see these red flags, please don't excuse it. A guy hits you the first time, don't say, oh, he was angry, I must have offended, I must have gotten him so mad. No, you didn't. So please, ladies, sorry, I'm probably going
Let
off,
me
but
I think
let, let
to help
me
answer the
let me
next
quickly
question,
chime in.
I'll let Tosi continue. But the next question was, some people find that they fall into these situations frequently. What makes one an easy target? Buki said that, Tutu said that as well, that, sometimes you need that, you may have a strong desire for something in your life, but be careful because sometimes unknowingly people pick up on that and they start to manipulate a person. Tosin.
I just quickly wanted to jump in that transparency is the biggest thing. Do you understand? By the grace and the mercy of God, would be married 22 years this year. And from the very beginning, transparency has always been our key. Never hides anything. When you see someone hiding things, doesn't want to gaslights you, that's the new word for this generation. When someone gaslights you a lot and tries to hide things, is not as transparent, doesn't want you to know things or go places or do certain things. I mean, that's don't make excuses and all of that. And this not checking the phone thing and all of that. My husband checks my phone. I take his phone. I do things. Not that I'm checking to look for anything, but we are so free with each other. There has to be that level of transparency that you have to get to or strive to with the person. If that person is not willing, that is your number one biggest red flag. Don't oh, he's just a private person. He shouldn't be private with you. Do you understand? So shine your eye, like they say in the language. Open your eye. And Tutu said, be extremely cautious. It's your life. Don't play with it. Don't play with your life. And I tell my girls this all the time.
I think Tosin's
Just a
frozen.
minute.
So yeah.
And
And I
maybe
think
just sorry, Nike. There is, like she said, there
This
is,
is too important.
deception. Okay.
I think you were a bit frozen before Tosin. Yeah, but we got some of the point. Thank you. Made some very good points about what Tosin was saying about transparency, and rest. And Bookie, please, I'll let you finish your thoughts. But some of these issues are so deep because honestly, some of the things that come up don't come up in the first 2, 3 years. Don't come up in the next 4 to 5 years. There's a scenario of a couple who stuff. Somebody just said that what do you do in a scenario where you've been married for a few years down the line? Yes, the marriage has ups and downs like every other marriage, but at some point things are happening. How do I put it? Sometimes I do even, and this is where we really need the Holy Spirit, and this is where our faith level comes in addition to all the common sense examples that we've given. Do your due diligence because somebody is married and all of a sudden maybe a spouse just gets tired. There are different types of people and personalities in this world. And sometimes, and that's why I just feel that ongoing prayer with one spouse also and asking God for grace is so important because the things that you see, I had a girlfriend who it was maybe 7 or 8 years down the line. She married someone that has been her friend for years, and the rest of it. And they had been in separate relationships and, some didn't work out. So getting married, you think you're marrying someone you're comfortable with, you understand each other, blah, blah, blah. She filed for this person to come, into the country, but they've been friends for before then. So she had been even in another relationship. They didn't even look like that. It was about 8 years in. So shortly after coming in, filed for him, got his paperwork within the 3 year, 4 year mark. It was in year 5, 6, wasn't as frequent in church anymore, had issues with maybe stuff going on. All of a sudden, you can't trace the pattern. And it was maybe like within maybe a couple of years of the marriage. So for somebody else, your spouse says, they're going abroad to go do a training course or to go do a learning course, stay there and they're thinking, well, instead of you going back, why don't you take one more course? And then after that, apply for this kind of visa. Then they become stuck there. So instead of them now coming home and say, okay, we can't stay there, they become stuck. They can't move for years. And then 3 years later, they're starting, some of these progressive things that I feel character issues. They didn't probably go into the relationship thinking this is how it would be. But when the issues of life came on, when certain situations came on, a new personality came out, what you never imagined. That's also, I think, another thing that, and I don't know what the answer to some of these things are, because it's not, I know that we need the grace and the grace of God, but I think to set certain things, sometimes, I feel that God in his mercy also shows some things. We may not always recognize it. And that's why I think it was Buki that gave that example that God is so loving because no matter how much we mess up, we find mercy and forgiveness in him. And I feel for some women, it comes to a point where you just have to draw the line and move on. And I think that's something Tutu said. And I think, everybody will say that sometimes you just need to say, our faith, our belief at times makes us stay longer than we should. But maybe we just need to pause and prayerfully move on into a better life. Because there are people that 3, 4, 5 years, they are living with the deception and the pain. There's no remorse, like somebody said earlier on. How long do we keep it? How long do we pray for family? How long do we pray for intervention? I'm not an advocate of anybody just walking out of their marriage, but I also feel that there are times when there's no marriage in heaven. And so for me, the most important thing is that you make heaven. You can make heaven without being married, but a lot of people are married and that marriage is driving them to hell because of pain, unforgiveness, no peace, all of those things. I know this might be controversial to some, and we talk about this thing on a case by case. There's never a blanket situation. But I just feel that, that last question about, sometimes you might not even realize you're an easy target, and sometimes you pray. Sometimes, like Tutu said, if there's a person is remorseful, 100% go down the hard work. But sometimes people are just in a situation where you find that this was a mistake. Do people end their lives at that point of mistakes and errors based on deception?
Yeah, Nikki, I think you kind of also went to where I was kind of go when we were trying to talk about toxic, which is, sometimes we may not have gone into a relationship with the thought of deception, or your spouse, you could have gotten married with no deception and anything. But as we've seen it multiple times. We were in love, we got married, everybody was supporting us, we were good for a few years, but along the line, deception comes into, things start to happen, and then deception comes into play and all of that. Again, we're not, there's, you, at the end of the day, we're still individuals and we're still humans, and we make choices. We make choices based on certain things. So the choice to deceive someone, or the choice to lie, or whatever, is it's our choice. It's our choice. It's a choice that we made if we're the ones doing the deception. And so it's difficult to, I think where I want to go is to let people understand that if you are a target or if you are a victim of deception, it's not necessarily your fault or something that you could have seen or something you could have avoided. I feel like, just like Jesus was not able to avoid even though he knew that it may happen, it still happened to him. He couldn't avoid it, right? So this is life, right? And so the deception will happen, things like that would happen. The question is, how do we move on from there? And this is where you're kind of going. Where do you decide that, okay, this is too much for me, and for my mental well-being, for my spiritual well-being, I need to move on, or this is workable. I believe that God can fix it. We both believe that God can fix it, and so we're going to work on it together. It's some of the examples that we've given today. I feel like some of them I find out like on the extreme, right? They're on the extreme where those are some of the ones where you'll forget it. Let's never ask any questions. I'm not doing this. There's some things that you kind of in your mental mind know already. This happens to me, it's going to be hard. I don't think I can take it. But there's some things, the deception happens in our marriages, which we're focusing on marriages now, and a lot sometimes, on little things, especially as you start to go, people start to mature in their marriage. And if you're not maturing together, or like Nikki was saying, praying together and pulling each other together in the same direction, we start off at one point, but then we continue on our journey. And at some point, we start to diverge. We start to have different needs and different wants. And so in order to support our different needs, but the other person, because at some point you were together, right? So you know what that person likes, you know what that person would accept. And so when you're doing things that person is not going to like or accept, you try to want to avoid telling them or being in. So the question is keeping that relationship in such a way that trust and understand where it is still a safe place. My marriage is a safe place for me. Even if I now have a divergent opinion from what you are thinking, or I have a different viewpoint about certain things, or I want to do something different from what we planned, right? I'm comfortable and I'm vulnerable enough in my marriage to come to you and say, well, honey, things have changed. This is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling right now. what can we do about it? And I think a lot of times, in marriages, we fail to continue to create that safe space for each other. And so that's where deception comes in. And the minute you tell one lie, then you have to tell another one to cover it, and then it's working for you, and then you just go on that path, and it just snowballs. I think sometimes in some of the situations that we find ourselves today, no, folks are not intentionally going out to deceive, to set out, I'm going to deceive this person. But then it starts to happen.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like there's no way for you to come back. Helping ourselves in our marriages to create that safe space for one another. It may be that I know that if I tell you this thing, you're going to be so mad and so upset about it that your reaction is not what I can handle right now. So I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
So that's where things kind of snowball.
You're so right.
So we make sure that in our marriages is a safe haven for us to come to and have those conversations.
Yes, my goodness. I know we only have a few minutes left, but what Tosi said, let me just take the last question. I'll give everybody 1 minute, to answer that, and to Bookie's point, I think Tosi said something, creating ongoing transparency. And then couples need to be matured because, Bookie said something spot on. And we have a part 2 of this show. We didn't start it as a part 2. It really was a completely different scenario of how do you deal with betrayal from friends. When your friend, as a man you trusted as a friend betrays you, or when a woman you trusted betrays you. That show is really about, relationships and friendships. And, we're going to take it to another level. But there were some good points here. And I think I really like where, Bookie sort of landed it, that there's also the, couples prayerfully staying in tune with each other, creating safe spaces, keeping, like Tosi said, transparency open. And for those who are Christians, I feel that, it's amazing the things that, there are signs when you just become uncomfortable about something. I know there's time when the Holy Spirit you just begin to find stuff. You may not be able to fix it. Your relationship might not be able to fix, but sometimes the Holy Spirit can start bringing things and you suddenly start noticing things you didn't notice before, for you to confront things. And it takes boldness, it takes love to be able to confront things. There was a question, I don't know if we can tackle it today, that says, but maybe in one answer, is it ever okay to hide the truth or look the other way in relationships? So let's leave this as in a marriage. Is it ever okay? It's a very wide, so you might not be able to answer me, but the answer can be sometimes, it can be yes, no, sometimes, and then we'll continue in part 2. Is it ever okay to hide the truth or look the other way? Tosin.
This is like a big one.
Only one answer. I can't hear you. Tosi might be frozen. Okay, while we're waiting for Tosi, Bookie, yes, no, sometimes.
If I hear, specific situation.
It was breaking up. Tosi, you have to take just one. Then the next show, part B, we're going to continue and we'll flex it out. Yes, no, sometimes.
Okay. Yes, depends.
I think sometimes, you have to become a set of what is the purpose of, sharing or hiding? What is it going to accomplish?
All right, sometimes. Tutu.
It depends.
Okay,
and so for me, sometimes it depends. And one, example that comes to mind in marriage sometimes can be, let's say, finances, for example. Let's say, both of you know that one spouse is a spender and the other is a saver. So, and then the saver gets maybe a big bonus at work, and there's a family plan. Maybe you guys are planning to do something as a family, but that if the spender finds out, then the money is going to go into something else. In that scenario, sis, I advise be quiet.
I would say in that scenario, don't be like, you should come out and say, I got it, but this is what we agreed about, and this is how we're going to do it.
And that's why I said it depends.
Two different positions. One says, don't say. Somebody said, uncle, auntie, this is it. It's not going anywhere. This is like,
case.
Okay. Very example. We are definitely going to have a part 2 to continue this, because it is true. You know, now this scenario was around this quote unquote, what is deception? And we purposely left it like that because it could be a third party. If you are in a scenario where you find your spouse, your friend's wife in a compromising situation, do you go and call your friend, oh boy, where is your wife? You know, do you hide? Do you look the other way that let me not get into their business? So we will be tackling this when we do the betrayal session. How do we respond and everything else? Somebody said it could be an instance of timing. Fantastic. Today's show has been amazing. Thank you to the ladies, Tosin, to Bookie, amazing, amazing point. But my goodness, it was really the comments from our audience made it so rich. You gave us things to think about, you gave us things to talk about. So we're really looking forward to it. The part two of it is a bit different. It says, help, I am hurt and I can't let go. So, you know, there are certain things. Now we've looked at it that what causes deception, but this is a different angle. Help. I am hurt and I can't let go. It could be in any area. And this is so important because honestly, we talk a lot about issues going on, mental health, you know, people going through scenarios, you know, life-changing scenarios, you know, um, murder, you know, so many things going on, you know, within the body and outside the body. So stay connected with us on our social media platforms. The conversation doesn't have to stop. During the week on our Instagram account, we'll be posting some of the rich stuff and would like to hear your thoughts, would like to hear your take. So please engage with us. Follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, on Twitter, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until we see everybody again, by God's grace, in 2 weeks' time, October 20th. It's going to be a buy from us. Before I forget,
August.
please, if you'd like to be a guest, we wanted to really do this. We're talking about it during our break. We would love for one or two people here who join us regularly, and you'd like to be one of the ladies on the show or one of the guys on the show. We've had that before where we had one of the guys who was chatting and we brought him on the show. We really want to do that. We are happy to be spontaneous and get your thoughts. So please ping us directly on our social media platforms and we'll be in contact with you. Until then, bye from all of us ladies here. Bye, everybody.